One day, a man told a girl named Sua that whatever people said about her, he would believe in her. Everyone in the village was stunned by the death of a boy named Chris. He was only 12 years old. Everyone immediately noticed the bite marks on the boy's neck. There was no blood left in the body at all, which meant only one thing: the vampire had done his best. Some of the villagers objected because there had never been a vampire in their village. Everyone immediately thought of a girl named Suha. It is said that after her appearance in the village constantly occur misfortunes. Just recently, Chris's house caught fire, and now his family has suffered a new sorrow. Are the rumors about vampires really true? One spring afternoon, Chris approached a girl sitting alone under a spreading tree. He said that he had heard from the villagers that the girl was a real vampire, so he decided to ask her directly about it. She looked surprised at first, and then looked away embarrassed. But the boy wasn't confused and reached out to her to try and befriend her. He said it was the first time he had seen her on the street during the day and asked her what the girl's name was. The girl turned away and snickered in response, and the boy decided to turn it into a joke and asked if the girl's name was Ham. To this she got angry and said that, of course, that wasn't her name. The boy then called her Suka and asked if that was the right name. He said that he actually already knew what the girl's name was, for she was something of a celebrity in the village. It's true that the adults rarely call her by her name. More often they just call Suha the recently moved vampire, to which the girl said she wasn't a vampire. The boy was surprised by this and said that according to the local Suka, often moves from place to place, doesn't come out during the day, and at night she hangs around alone and catches pigeons to eat them. The girl said this was not true, especially the last point. The boy said he didn't believe it either. Suka sat on her knees and with her hands in her hair, asked why she was always surrounded by such strange rumors. The boy asked why then Suka did not appear outside during the day, for that way she could go out and tell everyone that it was a lie. The girl thought that no matter how much she says, no matter how many dozens or even hundreds of times she denies it, no one believes her because they think she has strange powers. For as long as she could remember, she had been told that she should never use her powers, because if she showed them to the rest of the people, they would begin to suspect the girl, and her family didn't need to draw attention to themselves. Her parents always said that if Suha showed her abilities in front of people, everyone would consider her a vampire. Because of this, the girl began to wonder if she might be a vampire, and was afraid that it would all turn out to be true. However, the boy said that he was sure that Suha was not a vampire. He said he was lame from birth, and when you think you are different from everyone else, it becomes scary to cross paths with them. After all, so many people gossip about those who aren't like them in any way. The boy said that once he heard from his parents that they would regret his birth, and he was afraid that these words would become true. But now he is not afraid of it because he knows that these words are not true, and his parents love him. That's why the boy doesn't fall for such nonsense anymore. He once again offered Suka to be his friend, and said that the other boys don't take him to play either. The girl agreed to be his friend. From that moment on, Suka had a friend for the first time. It was the first time she enjoyed every day, the first time she wanted to tell someone her secret, and she was finally able to do it. She thought the boy would be scared, but he was only a little surprised and said it was a very cool ability. Suha was surprised and asked if the boy really wasn't afraid that she might turn out to be a vampire. He said he wasn't scared at all since he knows the girl. She was very surprised and asked if that was true, to which the boy replied that he wasn't afraid at all. Suha thought that she was still afraid that she might be a vampire, but her thoughts were interrupted by the boy, who asked, in all seriousness, if she wanted to try to bite his neck. The girl was very indignant at such a suggestion and said that of course she would not do it, for there was little chance of anything going wrong. The boy said that everything was all right and he believed her. The girl trembled at such words and hugged herself. She could not accept such an offer because she thought that there was a chance that she herself would turn out to be a vampire. The boy said there was nothing wrong with her doing it not now. He said she could bite him when she believed she could trust the boy, and when she believed in herself. He asked Sua to promise that. When she could believe in herself, then she would bite him on the neck. The girl thought that now, for the first time in her life, there was someone who believed in her more than she believed in herself. She thought that meeting Chris was the greatest happiness of her life, and every moment together was filled with joy. She was looking forward to what was ahead of them. She wanted to call Chris to admire the fireflies next week, and this time she wanted to go to him herself, to his village, to his home, to him who always came to her first. However, when she arrived at the boy's house, she found a burning house and panicked villagers. Some of the people were shouting that Chris was still inside, and at that moment, Suha realized that she had to save him, because he couldn't get out on his own. She rushed toward the burning house and remembered her parents' instructions that she should never use her powers, that she shouldn't show them to strangers, or she would be suspected of being a vampire. But right now, the girl didn't care. She ran forward and thought that she didn't care what people would say about her, and it didn't matter how they would look at her. Such nonsense didn't bother the girl anymore, and she was determined to use her power to save her friend. As the roof of the house began to fall, the girl caught it with her bare hands and held it above her as if it had absolutely no weight. Seeing her friend, Chris was overjoyed and said that since she had come to save him, it didn't matter what people said. Chris will always believe her. He said that a person with such a warm heart just can't turn out to be a vampire. Suha cried at such words, because all this time she thought that she was haunted by misfortune, but now she knows that it was all just for the sake of their meeting, so that she began to realize her value and that she never forgot such a friend. After a long time, the girl transferred to a very famous academy. The mentor said that she was the first transferred student in a long time and asked to be reminded of the girl's name. The young lady said that her name was Suha. The mentor told the girl that Dizelis Academy, in tribute to their founder, as the girl herself might have noticed, operates at night. Classes start at 9 in the evening. It might be difficult for Suha to get used to it at first, but she was sure she would quickly get used to it. The woman also said that so far they had no rooms left in the new dormitory, so they had to allocate a room for the girl in the old wing. No one uses that room, so it might be a mess. Suha said it's not a big deal. The mentor said that according to the rules of the academy, it was never allowed to leave the school grounds after sunset, and that didn't even concern the academy rules so much as the girl's personal safety. The woman said that recently, not far from the academy, Dizelis was committed a murder, and according to rumors, it was the work of the vampire. The mentor assured the girl that their academy was known for its strict admissions procedures, so she wouldn't meet any vampires within the walls of the academy, but it could be dangerous outside its walls. Suha listened attentively to her mentor and accidentally bumped into some guy. They stared into each other's eyes for a couple of seconds. Then the young man averted his gaze and walked away from the girl and the mentor, apologizing. The woman had already led Suha to the room where she would be staying. The room was the most extreme of all, and was far away from the other students' rooms. But the mentor immediately promised the girl that as soon as space was available in the new building, she would immediately move Suha into the new room. The girl said that she didn't need to worry about it or change anything, as she was happy with this room. The mentor accepted the girl's decision and said that in that case she could go to her room, settle in and rest. As soon as Suha entered the room and closed the door, she immediately looked around. The room was a mess. Things, books, even some clothes were lying everywhere. The window was wide open. She wondered if this was her room. Even with all the chaos that was going on in there, the girl was still glad to finally have a room of her own. She had been so worried while she was talking to her teacher and hoped her mentor hadn't noticed. Right now, Suha was over the moon. She was able to transfer to the best school in Riverfield, which was known for its strict policy towards vampires. So definitely no one here would consider her a vampire anymore. Because of Suha's strange abilities, she was always labeled as a vampire, so she had to move to new places again and again. Even if her room was in the middle of nowhere and dirty, she could clean it up. But the girl began to think about her powers again. They had done little good in her life. Now she remembered what Chris had said to her in the house on fire. He had said that a person with such a warm heart simply couldn't be a vampire. She recognized that meeting Chris and revealing her secret to him had been one good thing after all, except that she would never be able to see it again and feel as much trust from someone as strong as him. The moment the girl lifted the bed over her head to move it to another place, the door swung open abruptly. Standing on the threshold was the same young man she had accidentally bumped into in the hallway. At first they looked at each other for a couple of seconds, and then the guy having recovered a little from the shock, said that he had forgotten a book in this room. Sua immediately threw the bed on the floor and began to say that the guy had misunderstood everything, and of course was unlikely to believe her after what she had seen. And no one would believe her. But she really wasn't a vampire. At these words, the girl realized that she cried and thought that everything was lost because she had transferred here with such difficulty. But the boy had already said quite calmly that he knew Suha was not a vampire and believed her. The girl raised her head at the young man. She couldn't believe his words. The guy said that no vampire could penetrate the walls of this academy because the school has strict rules regarding the inspection of entrance. And looking at the girl's face, you can immediately understand how upset she is. Suha sincerely thanked the young man for believing her. She said that anyone in her shoes would feel like that. But she certainly doesn't want to be considered a vampire because she despises vampires more than anything else in the world. That's why she told the guy that he couldn't even imagine how happy Suha was to be able to transfer to Dicelis Academy because there are no vampires in that school. She's so happy now that she won't be confused with vampires anymore. The guy said that the girl must have suffered a lot from that in her life, and she replied that that was still putting it mildly. She said that she couldn't count how many times she had been suspected, and all because of those damn vampires. According to the girl's parents before she was born, vampires were nothing more than stories from books. But apparently something went wrong. Suddenly, the girl remembered that the young boy had come to get his book and asked where he had left it to look for it. The boy replied that there was no need to do that, and he would find the book himself, but the girl had already done so. Examining the cover, she said that the book must be very old. The guy replied that he was a bit interested in such books. Suha asked if by any chance this was why the young man had entered Dicelis Academy. After all, this school is famous for its library and collection of ancient editions. The boy replied that it was partly because of that. The girl said she liked to read too. She didn't have much friends at school before, and so all she had to do was read. Suha thought that in truth, she could only call Chris a friend, but she said out loud that this was the first time she had seen a person who read such books, because not many people read books nowadays. The girl casually asked what the book was about. The boy was a little embarrassed, but he said that in general terms the book contained all kinds of old stories. Suha said that, since it was such an interesting book, she would also take it to read later. Suddenly, as if realizing something, she apologized to the young man. The guy didn't understand it, and asked why the girl decided to apologize. Suha said that she apologized for probably being too annoying, because she was very happy to meet them. She said that it had been a long time since she had interacted with people, without prejudice. The guy said with a smile that it wasn't a big deal, as he enjoyed chatting with the girl too. Suha blushed a little, and gave the guy the book. He thanked the new girl and said that he had to go now. As soon as the door closed behind the guy, the girl thought that she should have at least learned his name, and offered to meet again sometime. After all, this was a chance to make a friend, and she ended up losing him. As soon as the girl thought about it, the door opened again and the same guy stood on the doorstep. He said he forgot something else and asked what the girl's name was. Sua told him her name and immediately stared at the floor in embarrassment. The guy asked if she wanted to know what his name was. The girl, in even more embarrassment, asked what his name was, to which the guy said with a chuckle that he had asked for it himself, and now he was silent, but he would tell her. The boy's name was Heli. He was in the 12th grade at Dicelis Academy. Heli proposed Suha to become friends, to which the girl willingly agreed. After recognizing the girl's name and telling her his, Heli left, saying that they would meet again. In the hallway, someone called out to Heli, calling him Chun. The guy turned around and saw a kid with red hair, Gino, who was smiling happily and waving to his young. He said that Heli had been gone for a long time, and he thought the guy had disappeared somewhere. He wanted to go home without him, but he was lucky enough to meet Heli. The young man apologized to his friend and said that he had gone to talk to the new girl for a while. Suddenly, another guy appeared abruptly behind Gino's back and asked who the new girl was, since they said it was a girl. Heli replied that it was indeed a girl, and that she was staying in the room that no one but their company was using. Gio was surprised and asked if Heli was definitely talking about that old room that looked more like a warehouse. He thought it might be very uncomfortable to live there. The third guy said he liked it so much, because of the remoteness of that room, and now they wouldn't be allowed to go there. Heli said he wasn't sure about that, because if they made friends with the new girl, they could safely look in there. It would be very easy to do because Hyaran very easily finds common language with many people. Suddenly, another member of their company appeared behind the guys. He mentally said that making friends with a human was just nonsense. Heli immediately recognized the guy. That was Solon. Heli also mentally told him that he had already introduced himself to the new girl and offered to be friends with her. He also told him that the girl's name was Suha. In this telepathic conversation, the fifth guy intervened. He said that Solon is right, and they're not allowed to socialize with others. Solon confirmed this and said that they didn't need to. Heli thought he knew what Solon was worried about, but there was something wrong with this girl, for there was something about her that was like themselves. Sion was surprised and asked how that was one of them. Gino asked how this girl was able to get into the academy then. Solon said that there was no way she could be like them, since they were one of a kind. Heli confirmed that the girl is not one of them, but she is also not an ordinary person. He senses something strange and appealing about her. Sion wondered what it was that Heli was saying, and if he was really just falling for the new girl. Solon thought, where would they get such feelings? And even if they do, they can't be friends with humans, because they wouldn't accept them anyway. The fifth boy supported Solon and said that humans getting close to them in vain would only bring danger upon themselves. Heli remained silent, and Solon, interrupting the telepathic link, said that, be that as it may, none of them should go near the new girl. At that time, Suha was just standing behind Solon's back and heard his last words. Solon said that no matter what, none of them should go near that new girl again. And Suha was standing at the guy's back just then. She heard those words and she felt uneasy about it. Heli noticed Suha and oohed quietly. The girl thought she was already hated and remembered a moment from her childhood when she wanted to make friends and play with the other kids. And they surrounded her. And the most powerful boy in the company said that the other kids shouldn't play with Suha because she was a vampire. He said that according to the stories of the adults, if one befriended her, misfortune would await everyone. The girl lowered her head and thought that it was the same as then. All she wanted was to make friends with someone, to make a new start, but it ended up the same as when she was a kid. She thought that now these guys would look at her the same way those kids did in the distant past. But looking up, Suha was surprised and didn't understand why all the guys were staring at her like that. Suddenly, Sion, with a happy smile, approached the girl and, holding out his hand to her, asked if she was the Suha he had heard so much about. He asked if it was today that the girl had transferred to their academy. Suha confirmed these words, and then Sion told the girl his name and offered her friendship. The girl gladly accepted the hand extended to her and agreed to be friends with Sion. Suddenly, Gino intervened and said that Sion was always causing trouble and that the girl should not be friends with him, but instead should be friends with him. He also told the girl his name and shook her hand. The fifth guy, who had previously supported Solon in thinking that he shouldn't be friends with the new girl, somehow changed his mind and after rubbing his hand a little on his own shirt, extended his hand to her and said his name was Ian. The girl was excited to meet all the guys. Thane told her to ignore what Solon said because none of them agreed with the young man. He also said that it was natural for people to show friendliness towards the new girl. When all four guys introduced themselves, Suha looked at the last one who hadn't introduced himself to her. She thought it was probably Solon. However, the girl didn't like his wariness and what he had said before. Just as she thought, Solon just disliked her. That's all. His cold stare made the girl's heart clench every time. And yet, it was the first time she had ever been welcomed by someone as much as these guys. They all seemed so cold to her at first, but are they really all Heli's friends? Suha didn't know what Heli had told them about her. Solon was about to leave and waited for his friends to follow him, but Ayin said Solon could go without them. Heli asked where Suha was going now. The girl said she just wanted to look around the campus a bit. Heli then suggested that they take a walk together and give her a familiarization tour at the same time. At first, the guy decided to show her where the library was because he remembered from their last meeting that the girl loved to read. The girl agreed, but then Sion intervened and said he wanted to go with them and asked her to take him along. Suha agreed, and after that Ian and Jeong also came along. Ian said that they would love to show her around the academy, and Jeong confirmed that they were serious. Suha was a little confused by this, but agreed and said it was very nice of the guys. Solon was angry at his friend's behavior and asked if they were all going to herd around the academy for some sort of tour of the school. Cyan said that Solon was right. It wouldn't be convenient, so he might not go with them, but Jaeon tried to persuade his friend to go. Solon was reluctant at first, but he went with his friends. Just as Heli had said, they went to the library first. It really was a luxurious place with an incredible amount of books. Suha asked Heli where he had gotten the book he was reading now. The guy replied that this book was very old, so to take something like that you had to have special permission. The girl was even a little upset that she couldn't take something like that. But Heli said that he would tell her what the book was about when he finished it. That made the girl happy, and she thanked Heli for that. The next part of their tour was the classrooms. Ion was showing Suha where the 9th grade classrooms were. Right around the corner were the 10th grade classrooms, and the 11th and 12th grade classrooms were a little farther away. The fact that Zion was in the 10th grade, just like Suha, also had to be mentioned. Ian and Gino were in 11th grade, but he decided to leave out Solon for some reason. But he said that Heli was in 12th grade. Suha was surprised by this and said that even though the boys are in different grades, they are still so close. She said that it's really cool. Solon was the only one walking a little behind the cheerful group and looked at the girl suspiciously. Heli explained to her that it was no surprise because all the boys had grown up together. The girl didn't understand that and asked how that was possible. Heli said that they all came from the same orphanage. All of their parents had died and the boys had been sent all to the same orphanage where they had met. Solon was incredulous that Heli had given the girl such details and mentally asked why he had done it. Heli ignored the question and the girl apologized to them. The next destination was the sports field. Gino said that all the athletes were busy practicing right now because an important 8-ball match was about to take place. Most likely the remaining 2 were just on the field right now. The girl asked why 2 and Gino said that they usually go in groups of 7, but the guys who were absent now were taking the game very seriously, being confirmed that those 2 just love to compete, so they practiced tirelessly. The guy was sure that their team would win anyway. The girl wanted to ask what kind of game it was. IT ball. But suddenly a ball flew at them. Ian reflected the ball, and the other guys immediately rushed to cover Suha from the blow. Seeing the ball, the others realized that it was launched by the 2 guys who were practicing right now. Closer to the edge of the field, 2 guys ran up and apologized for the ball hitting the wall. One of them asked if his friends were okay. Ian called the guys by name, Noah and Jaka, and said they needed to be more careful next time. Jaka said they were lucky that the ball flew right back in Ian's direction. The guy got a little angry, and those ran back onto the field. Ian turned back and asked if Sua was okay, if she was too scared. But he saw an interesting picture. Heli cradling Sua against her, seemingly without even realizing it, realizing that their friends were looking at them. The guy and girl pulled away from each other. Heli apologized for that and asked if Suha was okay. The girl replied that she was fine thanks to the guys. She blushed a little and lowered her head, and said that she was very grateful to all the guys for today. They had purposely taken their time to help her. Heli said they all had fun, but the girl said she had to go and quickly ran off to her room. Sion didn't understand why the girl ran away, and Ian assumed she was just scared of the ball. Already standing by the door to her room, Suha tried to catch her breath and thought about how it was so strange to have a guy hugging her like that. It was the first time. Suddenly, the girl was called out by someone's voice. She turned around and saw Solon in front of her. Solon came almost close to Sua and asked her if she knew his name. The girl didn't understand the question at first, but then answered that the guy's name was Solon. The guy was about to leave, but the girl suddenly thanked him for that incident. The guy didn't understand and asked what incident the girl was referring to. She answered about the incident at the sports field when a ball flew at her. That's when Solon grabbed her by her clothes and pulled her back. Solon was a little embarrassed by this, and said that it was nothing like that. He just noticed dust on the girl's uniform and decided to shake it off that way. Suha thought that was nice enough too. She replied that she was grateful to Solon anyway, and offered to be his friend. But the guy suddenly became serious and told the girl not to even think of getting close to them. They don't make friends with other people, especially people like her. Solon thought to himself that he had some strange feeling from this girl's presence, some incomprehensible strong attraction. As he left, Solon told Suha not to even talk to him or his friends from now on. Later, the boys all gathered in one room and discussed what had happened. Sion said that he seemed to understand what Heli was talking about when he said about the strange attraction. Gino said it was probably about this new girl. Na is definitely not one of them. Then why does she cause such inexplicable feelings, as if some strange force is leading the heart itself? Ian agreed with his friend, but could not find a suitable description. Then Heli intervened and said that it felt as if they wanted to do whatever the girl wished. All three boys agreed with that description. Sion couldn't believe it. He thought it was true love, but how could it be possible for everyone to fall in love at once at the same time? Gino interrupted him and said that they couldn't experience emotions like that. Ian said that he feels something else besides all that, but many times stronger. Meanwhile, Suha was standing outside her room and was already starting to cry a little. Solon, who was about to leave but turned around for some reason, asked what was wrong with her face. The girl almost cried and said that since Solon wanted her to, she wouldn't even say hello to guys. The guy was embarrassed by this and said that the girl could say hello to them and talk a little and generally do whatever she wanted. Solon asked the girl not to misunderstand him right now. He didn't hate the girl. There was another reason. He wanted to give a reason already, but at the last moment he changed his mind. After all, the other guys will definitely disobey anyway, so the girl doesn't need to focus on Solon's words. The guy turned around and left, wishing Suha good night. In the evening, the girl was more excited than ever, for it was her first day at Dizelis Academy. As soon as she came out of her room, she immediately ran into Heli. He said that he had come specifically to go to classes together to get better friends because that was what Suha wanted. The girl thought that Heli was taking care of her so that she wouldn't feel uncomfortable after transferring to a new school, and that was very nice of him. As they walked down the corridor of the academy together, everyone said hello to Heli or waved at him, and he would say hello to everyone in return and wave back as well. Suha thought Heli was really popular, although it was understandable since he was so cool and friendly. Suha thought that Heli wasn't just polite to her, and for some reason blushed at the thought. The guy noticed this and leaned closer to the girl and asked if she was uncomfortable being around him. The girl started to deny it, saying that it was just the opposite and she herself was afraid of making the guys uncomfortable because of her. She said that all 7 of the guys had been very close and she was a little girl, and now she is trying to fit in with them. She realized that not many people would like that. Heli replied that it's all nonsense and it must have been Solon who said something like that to her. Suha said that wasn't true, but thought to herself how Heli could have guessed that. The guy said that Solon had said all those words, then not out of malice and asked the girl to ignore it. He said that the reason for Solon's words was not because of Suha, but because the guys had a secret that no one should know about. Heli said the last words already in the girl's mind, and she was very much surprised by it. Heli said that only Suha knows about his gift of telepathy, except their company, because Heli trusts her and believes that the girl will not reveal this secret to anyone. After that, Suha and Heli separated, wishing each other good luck in class. When Suha entered the classroom, Sion was already there. Seeing the girl, he was very excited. Suha thought that she was very lucky to study in the same class with Sion. The guy pointed to the seat next to him and told the girl to sit there. Suha looked at the desk and, noticing things, told Sion that someone was already sitting there. Sion smiled and said that it was okay. It was Solon's seat and he could be asked to sit somewhere else. At that moment, the girl felt something wrong and turned around and saw Solon behind her, angry as hell. Suha, noticing the boy, said that he didn't have to find another seat, as she could sit somewhere else. Solon said he didn't care and could sit if he and Sion wanted to. The guy gathered his things and moved to the seat right behind the girl. When the bell from class rang, Sion came up to Suha and asked what they were going to do now that class was over. The girl said that she wanted to clean up her new room after class. Sion happily replied that he would help the girl with that. As Suha was walking down the hallway towards her room, in her thought she heard Heli calling her name. She turned around and saw a guy smiling sweetly at her and waving. He walked up to the girl and asked her how her day and lessons were. Suha said that she was fortunate enough to be in the same class as Sion, so everything went smoothly. Heli asked if it was true that since Suha was in the same class with Sion, she was also in the same class with Solon. She said that was correct. She was sitting next to both guys since Solon had given up her seat. Heli was surprised at this behavior of her friend, and at the same moment Solon passed by them. The guy said that he didn't give up his seat at all. I was just taken away. Ian came up to the company and, having heard the whole conversation, said that of course Solon should have given up his seat to Suha since she was new. Then Gino joined in. He said that since Suha is new, they would need to look after her and help her out. Sean said that his friends were right, and if Solon didn't like something, he could move to the very back of the class. Solon was not happy that his friends were now supporting some new girl instead of him, but there was nothing he could do about it. While the rest of the guys were busy squabbling amongst themselves, Suha told Heli that she wanted to do some cleaning in her room today, and they dramatically wanted to help. Using telepathy, the guy asked if he could join them then too. Suha replied that he could do that. Solon, noticing something strange, began to guess that Heli had shown the girl his gift. In Suha's room, the boys had already started cleaning, but the girl insisted that she could handle it herself. Putting the box away, Ian said that the girl should just stand there and breathe. John confirmed his friend's words and said that they could handle everything themselves much faster. Sion, beaming with joy, said that he loved cleaning more than anything else in the world. Sua replied that she would help, and going to the first box that came into sight, which was covered with a cloth, she got ready to take it in her hands. He wanted to warn her not to try to lift the box herself, but it was too late. She picked it up and asked why she shouldn't and what was inside. Suddenly, the cloth covering the box came off, and the girl saw the weights. He said that these weights weighed 100 kilograms, and everyone was stunned that a girl like Suha could lift it so easily. The girl was starting to panic, but Heli came up to her. Smiling sweetly as always, he said that the girl should give the box to him. When the girl was surprised at such a suggestion, Heli used telepathy and said that she could be calm because he had that ability too. He asked if that was the reason Suha was scared of him, or if she might hate him. The girl said there was no way she would do that. Heli assured her that they wouldn't treat her differently either because of her power. At this point, Solon realized that Heli was communicating with Suha through telepathy, thus giving away her gift, and it made the guy very angry. He decided to ask his friend directly, to which Heli replied that yes, he was indeed communicating with the girl using telepathy as of late. The rest of the guys realized it too, and when Ian wanted to say something, Heli turned to Suha and asked if the girl would keep his ability a secret. The girl immediately replied that of course she would. He said that in that case, it would remain only within the confines of their company. The guy also said that Suha has cool power too. The girl said that at first she was surprised by Heli's abilities, but then she realized that telepathy was cool. Suddenly, Sion jumped into the conversation. He said he could walk on walls and, as proof, demonstrated it by walking on the ceiling. Solon was very unhappy that the two had already revealed their abilities, but no one thought to stop. And picked up the gym equipment with ease and twirled it on one finger, saying that these were his weights, and while Suha didn't live here yet, he had been practicing here. John came up behind the girl with a flame lit on his hand, and jokingly said that if Suha's hands got cold, she could always turn to him. Now Solon was just furious at the boy's recklessness, but he noticed the glint and anticipation in Suha's eyes looking at him. He asked what she was looking at him like that for, and said that he was no good at any of that. The girl seemed upset with the answer, to which Solon said that he can do some things but he will never show it. He said that if the guys were done cleaning up, it was time for them to leave, and left the room, slamming the door loudly. Heli said that they all really should be going by now, and wished the girl a good night. Suha thanked him for the day. When all the guys had left and Suha was alone, she thought how nice it was that she had met such wonderful guys here. Thanks to them, she learned that there were more people with different abilities, and she wasn't the only one. She wondered if the other guys thought something similar when they saw her and where they got their powers from. A thought popped into her head that these guys might be vampires, but she immediately dismissed it. She thought she had been bullied her whole life because of this misunderstanding, and there was no way she was going to do the same to the guys. She figured that Heli was the first person since Chris who'd ever believed her, so she'd believe him too. She figured that since there were people like her in the world, like Heli and his friends, she wouldn't be alone anymore. Under the cover of night, When all the students of the academy were already asleep, some unfamiliar figures snuck onto the grounds. One of them said that the place smelled so disgusting that there were obviously vampires around here somewhere.